We will call the Economic Development Committee into order. I am joined by my colleagues, Paul Picarian and Gil Cedillo. We are going to move item 1 on consent. There's no objection. That will be the order. And we're going to be continuing items 2 and 3. We've got some language issues to resolve, and I think with a little more time we can accomplish that. So we'll continue items 2 and 3. That takes us to item 4.
Item number 4 is a motion, Buscaino-Wesson, relative to ensuring that Los Angeles Development Fund funds committed to the Wattstar Theater and Education Center project remain in place until the end of December 2013, when the project will complete its financing and identification of $15.5 million in community development block grant funds to be used to provide a project guarantee to replace the guarantee that was withdrawn from the project on July 13th, 2013.
All right, it's a mouthful, but it's a mouthful of a project, one that lots of folks are concerned and committed to. We've got several cards on it, so let's take those cards first. Susan Azad. Susan, come on down. Followed by Barbara Stanton, and then Carolina.
All right. Thank you very much. Should I sit?
You may.
Thank you. Okay, you ready for me?
We are ready.
Okay, my name is Susan Azad. I'm a partner with the law firm of Latham & Watkins, and I'm also the chairperson of the Watts Cinema and Education Center Board. I've been involved with this nonprofit for approximately 14 years. My law firm has provided probably close to $2 million in pro bono legal services to this project. We view it as a very, very important, and I personally view it as a very, very important project for this city. What happened with this project, and the reason that there is some urgency, is the project has been through the permitting process. We've pulled building permits. We've begun limited site work in order to keep the permits active. The project is a new markets tax credit project. We had secured $22 million in new markets tax credits from both LADF and also from Citibank. And the project was moving forward to closing. We were actually approximately 30 to 45 days from closing. My law firm was very involved in the closing process. When the guarantor of a $15.5 million leveraged loan pulled out. So what we've been attempting to do is to replace that guarantee because the project is ready to close. We had complete approved financials, and essentially this is what's unique about this project is it is geared so that it's a 4-screen, first-run movie theater coupled with an education center, and the whole model of the project, which is quite unique, is that the project is built to be self-sustaining. So the project is estimated to take in gross revenues approximately $5 million per year, which after paying taxes, would allow for payment of debt service. Approximately $1.5 million per year is to go to the nonprofit to service debt, and also to run programs. So that's. I see that my time has expired. So that's the importance of the project, and it's also a project that this city has been very, very supportive of, and something that is really much, much needed in this community, which has been without for so very long.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, Barbara Stanton. And I know 2 minutes is not a lot of time, but we have lots of speakers, and so just
I
ask
promise,
you
2 minutes. Mr. Chairperson and board members, thank you for allowing us to share the gifts and the good points of the Wattstar. I want to go into a little bit about the jobs very quickly. 270 jobs during construction, 40 permanent jobs in the community, and 407 over a 9-year period. Those jobs are only a smidgen of what's going to be available to the thousands of students that have so little in that community right now. I was born and raised there. My mom is here today. I'm very proud to be from Watts, and that this is why I brought my whole team with me to share different points, good points of the project. We also will have a teleconference center so that we can open up the world to the students, to career paths and to things that they've never seen before. These things are very critical to us. In addition, we have a stage on one theater for performances, for live performances. So I am here to share with you that there are thousands and thousands of people depending on you to do what you know is possible in your heart, because this is something that my mom has waited for 50 years, a movie theater to come back to Watts. And I'm asking you with all the compassion in your heart to please consider this for the community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your commitment to this project over the many years. Carolina, followed by Lewis, is it Brown? Is there a Lewis Brown in the house? And, okay, Bert, and then Ozzie Gonzak.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolina, and I am a native of Watts, California, and proud to be. My dad, who is 97 years old, is still a community resident, and I am associated with nonprofit organizations that help youth in their cultural development and their education. So I'm here today just basically to give my support to the Watts Star Project and to encourage you to please do whatever it takes to see this development complete, because it is going to benefit the young people in our community as well as the other residents. Senior citizens will have something for everyone at the Theater and Education Center. And I'm here to support and help in whatever way I can.
Thank you.
And I hope you do so.
Thank you for your testimony. Liz, is it, so it's not Brown, it's Bert.
I just write bad.
Okay, and I read bad, so we're even.
Look, my name is Louis Burt. I'm here today to support the project. I've lived in Watts practically all of my life, 67 years. And during that time, I witnessed a lot of things, the Watts riot, and earlier in my life when I was going to school there at Jordan High School, we had 2 theaters in Watts, and both theaters burned down during the Watts riot. And since then, we haven't had a theater in Watts in 50 years? Almost 50 years now. And to have a theater in Watts will benefit the community very well. I've worked in Watts for over 20 years, and I've lived in Watts practically all my life. So, but I really support this project, and I think it's a project that the community really actually needs, because like say right now, the people in Watts have to travel off 20, 30 miles, 15, 20 miles just to go to a theater. And with this theater, it's also going to allow them to have educational needs as well. But if we would really appreciate if you really consider this project, because I think it's a well-worked project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Madam Gonzak, Grand Dame of Watts, and no stranger to City Hall or the community.
Thank you so much for allowing us to have this time. I am from Watts. I'm a resident of Watts for the past 60 years. I've raised my children in Watts, not because I couldn't move, but because I didn't want to move. I feel that in communities you have to have someone who's willing to be a role model and stay in a community and improve, not move. I think Watts has been a whipping boy for a lot of years, ever since the riot. It's had all the negative, anything negative that you want to know, they talk about Watts as being negative. Well, as one who has lived there for 60 years, I can tell you Watts is a neighborhood I choose to live in with my family. And I feel a little bit, and I don't want to say this, but I really feel if this project was anywhere else, it would have been completed a long time ago. And I don't know if that's because of the negative image that Watts has, and people have lost interest in Watts because of the negative images. But I think communities die because people lose faith in them. They lose faith in the people who live there. They lose faith in everything positive about a community simply because they've heard negative things. And they never get a chance or make the effort to find out what is this community really like. Well, I can tell you this community is a community that needs the support of our leaders. It needs the support and the faith that Watts will continue to survive. It survived all these years. With all the negative things that's happened, it still survived. But I ask you today, have a little faith in this project. And a person who's worked for 14 years, sometimes I feel guilty because I encouraged her to open this theater in Watts. So I really feel a little bit guilty about that, but I always taught my kids they should give something back to a community. And that's why I'm here today. I hope you'll see a reason to support this project.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for being such an inspiration, not only to your family, but to the community. And we appreciate your testimony this morning. Reginald Blight. Blast from the past. Good to see you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Reynolds Blight, retired city employee. I spent 30 years with the city in community and economic development. Ended up managing the city's industrial development authority and et cetera. When I took early retirement, I kind of went over to the other side, if you will, to help nonprofits. And this project, I think, is one of the most important projects that I was ever exposed to in my whole tenure working for the city. I think it has potential for huge economic impact, not just for the local community, although I think that's very important, but for the broader community and the city as a whole. I think it's a model for something that could be replicated in a variety of ways in a very important way. I just wanted to let you know that I was involved along the way with the financial side of this. I worked with Warner Brothers, Mann Theaters to work the numbers and make sure that the financial side of this made sense. And I'm here to assure you that this project will not only pay for itself, but generate funds for the community, for the projects that will be at the training center. So I firmly believe that the financials are strong. The guarantee is frankly not at much risk. I mean, there's always, exceptional things that might happen. But I think on a financial analysis kind of basis, this is not an at-risk project. The numbers are very solid.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your service to the city. Mark Copley, followed by Howard Wilinski, followed by David Cunningham, Jr.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Collopy. I'm the president of Jenkins, Gales, and Martinez. We're the architecture and project management firm for the Watts Star. We've been involved with the project for approximately 10 years. For me, the most interesting thing is how the city family has come together to support this project from its first phase, where they were working with Janice Hahn to retool the theater and make it more profitable, and in this phase of the work where the Department of Building and Safety, the council offices have all bent over backwards to try to facilitate this project. It's a very worthy project for the area, and the most unique portion of it, in my opinion, is how the for-profit theater supports the nonprofit entity and its educational mission. There will be a lot of stagehands and entertainment engineers, sound engineers, film engineers who will come out of this program that Watts Star is running. So I would hope that this group will continue the efforts of the city family over the past decade and support the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Howard?
Members, my name is Howard Wilinski. I am a senior vice president with Warner Brothers in the business of distributing motion pictures to theaters for 39 years. I'm also serve on the board of the Watts Star nonprofit, and I've been involved in this project personally for more than a decade. Many groups at Warner Brothers have been very active in supporting this project, financially, helping to design the theater. We've donated movies to the benefit of the nonprofit as fundraisers. And my experience tells me that this theater will be successful, that the numbers are conservative, as they should be, and that the cash flow from these theaters will drive and flow funds to the nonprofit job training educational center. So this project, if it gets built, and to a degree it's in your hands today and to the full council, will provide a real win-win to this city, because it's a private-public partnership that to develop a very underserved community. So I ask you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Rice, followed by Dave Cunningham, followed by Jacob Hike, and William Price. Mr. Rice.
Good afternoon. I'm a businessman in the community. We own the Popeyes Chicken franchise in the shopping center. I'd like to say our community needs and wants a theater like this. I got started in Popeyes because I grew up here in the community and went to school in the community. Nobody helped me, okay? People like Barbara and the Watts Star, I was at the meeting with Warner Brothers where they agreed to hire and train some of the people that come out of the training center. The jobs are going to be provided in the immediate future. The police department, LAPD was there, the sheriff department was there. We're all excited about this. We think that it's going to be a great project for the community, and it'll be able to sustain ourselves. I've reinvested $100,000 in my store, in the Watts Center, in the last couple of months. And I'd like to build a sit-down restaurant in there. I come from that community, and I think this theater would be a good project for us, and it will also build taxes for the city. So if you guys think that that this project is not worth it, then you need to come down, look at the people in the community, come down and see us, come down and visit with us, come to my store. The community knows about this theater and the possibility, and they want it, and they're eager for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Former Councilman Dave Cunningham, Jr.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Cunningham, retired member of Los Angeles City Council, former chairman of the Grants, Housing, and Community Development Committee, which is now morphed into the committee that I'm now appearing before. It's with a great deal of pleasure that I come here this afternoon. First of all, my involvement with the project is I'm president and chair of the board of the for-profit company called the Watts Star, but it doesn't mean anything until we get an opportunity to generate some revenue. What it does is it costs those of us who sit on the board to try to keep the for-profit going. You heard the mechanics of the facility. You've heard the goals of not only the facility, but the pipeline that will be developed. What I'd like to share with you simply is this. I've been involved with this project for quite some time as a result of my relationship with Tom Bradley. He asked me to, since we had many years ago, we had been with People Inc. trying to provide theater opportunities within the Watts area. He asked me if I would come and join with Barbara and try to help her get through the process. I thought it would probably take a couple of years or so, but now, as you see, it has morphed into about 15 years or so. During that period of time, this theater, this project, has been on its deathbed many times, too many times for me to recount. But each time, we've been able to pull it back, we've been able to resuscitate it, we've been able to put it on life support. Now we thought we were at the point where we had been able to get it off of life support. Simply what is being asked of you today is to provide an opportunity to provide a guarantee. What form that guarantee will take, I think that's a determination that you all can make. But I think once you take a look at the numbers that have been presented to you, the kind of research that's been done, all of the surveys and polling that we've done, that you will find that it is within the ability of this theater and its operation for the 4 theaters that we will have there to be able to pay its debt and to give a return to the city. So that's all we ask. Be happy to answer any questions if you wish to ask me questions, but I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I know how taxing and how tough this is for you to make that decision, but I don't think it'll even impact your budget it's just a guarantee. So we pledge to make certain that you never have to touch that money to solve the guarantee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman, for your comments. And miraculously, you got the clock to stop. I don't know how that happened, but that was another good trick. Jacob Hike, followed by William Price.
Good afternoon, council members and Mr. Chair. I'm here speaking on behalf of Councilman Joe Buscaino. My name is Jacob Hake, Deputy Chief of Staff. You've heard a lot of testimony today. You heard a lot of passion, a lot of history. Many of you know about this project and how far it's come from 18 years ago, where the great Ozzie Gonzak and her husband got their daughter to take this project on. As a former council member shared, it has been on its deathbed many times. It's come close to where I think we thought, oh, darn it, we're going to lose this project. And somehow, this group behind us, Barbara and Ozzie and the team, have managed to breathe life back into the project and to gain more ground. It almost feels like you make progress and then you take a couple steps back, but they've never given up. And where we're at today is so close to the finish line. As you've seen in the motion, we're asking for 2 things. One, just to continue this until December, the credits and everything that we've guaranteed. And then 2, to allow the CLA to seek out options or opportunities for guaranteeing the funding for this project. The WASTAR project is also diligently looking for other opportunities, other guarantees. So they're doing their share of funding opportunities, and we simply ask that you give them the time and allow the CLA to report back on opportunities. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Last up, Bill Price, no relation. But a friend.
Good afternoon to the members of the committee and to the public. Again, my name is Bill Price, and I've worked as a consultant on this project for a number of years. And before that, I was a project manager with Community Development Agency, also working on this project. I also had an opportunity during that time to work on the Crenshaw Baldwin Hills Plaza, and hence the Magic Johnson Theater and its opening. And it's amazing the similarities that both projects have had to go through in order to make it. And I also feel that just like the Magic Johnson project was a big success, if allowed to move forward, this project will also be a very big success, and credit to the City of LA and the community. And just a couple of quick notes I'd like to point out. Number 1, this is a great project. Number 2, it's been a long time coming, but each phase or version as it's moved forward has always improved the project, gave us an opportunity to look at something a little bit different and make the project a little bit better. The numbers work. We've ran them, re-ran them, overran them. I observed that. I don't do that part. But we know that the numbers are good and that they'll work. I think that's very important. Also, we know that this is what the community wants. There's been a number of studies in terms of what's happening or what people would like to happen in the community, and this is always looked upon favorably. Also, this project will fit in with the other things that are proposed in the Watts community right now. And I think they'll allow all these things to come together and allow the project and the community to really move forward like it hasn't had an opportunity to do in the past. And one of the most important things, I think, is that if this project is not allowed to move forward, it will be almost impossible, especially with the redevelopment agency no longer in place, for this type of a project to be proposed and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And thank all members of the public for your testimony, your impassioned, informed, and inspiring testimony. This project has received a great deal of support from a cross-section of the community for several years, and so we want to do all we can to help push it forward and to ultimately seek its approval. There is a motion that we continue this matter, that we request the CAO and CLA to report back in 30 days as to feasible financing alternatives to make this project possible. And members, without any objection, that'll be the order. Any comments? We've been joined by Councilwoman Martinez. Welcome. But there are no other comments, members. That will be the order.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please. Mr. Krikorian.
So that I'm clear, we will be continuing consideration of the motion for the 30 days, because there is this provision in the motion regarding ensuring that LADF funds remain in place, and I was unclear on what the impact of that would be, but that'll be part of
that should be a part. Yeah, that's a nonprofit, independent nonprofit. So I don't think the council isn't in a position to tell it what to do, but let's get a report back from OA to give us some direction as what the parameters are and what the opportunities are.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I support the motion and support your leadership, but I want to express my support for the project, looking at the success of the Magic Johnson Theaters that was noted. You look at the success of Regal Theaters in downtown. Mm-hmm. Clearly, this community is deserving. It has the community support, the public-private partnership model, the substantive private sector support is really something to be acknowledged from Warner Brothers and the other partners. Clearly, this is when everybody touts public-private partnerships. This is what we should be talking about, and so I want to just express my support to the audience for their presence today and for what we look forward to being a successful project and one that we need to, it's an idea whose time has come and one that we look forward to.
I agree, and not just private sector support, but industry support.
Yes.
And so that's significant that we got support of the industry in making that happen. Okay, so without objection, that will be the order. And again, thank you all for coming out and testifying today. Okay, members, let's move on to item 5.
Item number 5 is a CAO and City Attorney reports and the draft ordinance relative to proposed amendments to the Los Angeles Administrative Code and a proposed amendment with AEG for the management and operations of the Los Angeles Convention Center.
Okay, let's invite AEG. Bud, are you going to come up for the Convention Center? It appears we have one card on this subject. Let's take that card first from Christopher Sutton. Christopher Sutton?
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher
Pull
Sutton.
the microphone up a little closer, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
My
you.
name is Christopher Sutton. I'm an attorney for the Westin Bonaventure Hotel. I sat through the hearing yesterday in Mr. Krikorian's committee on this matter, and since the 2005 settlement between the Bonaventure, AEG, and the city, we support anything that enhances the convention center. We are afraid that there's a thing that's going to be lost in the shuffle and the transition, which is the current pending construction of the regional connector, which will put a construction pit in front of the Bonaventure for 6 years, and in all likelihood will mean that Bonaventure will be unable to book convention business and will be unavailable to people who want to book convention business. The 1,354 rooms at the Bonaventure will be put at risk because of the way the MTA wants to build this subway. Alternative construction methods are available where they can tunnel past the Bonaventure. The tunnel already ends just north of the Bonaventure. On Friday, the City Council will consider a motion by Mr. Bonin and Mr. Huizar giving negotiating instructions to the city staff regarding the sale of the mangrove property in Little Tokyo for the regional connector project. We have asked that the city condition that sale on additional environmental protections for the residents and businesses along the regional connector. The city has this power. The city can say no, or they could continue the motion on Friday. But having a construction pit in front of the Bonaventure for up to 6 years is a devastating impact on the convention center. And we urge that that impact be analyzed by the city staff and that the city take a position with the MTA in these negotiations over the mangrove property, that the city is insisting on additional environmental protections for the residents and businesses along the regional connector in order to protect the business of the convention center. The Visitors Bureau has estimated that this loss of the Bonaventure for 6 years will mean economic losses of $4.2 billion and over $200 million of losses to the city's direct revenue and hotel and sales taxes. The MTA has stated they can physically tunnel past us, and we would urge that the city help us in this regard and consider the motion on Friday regarding the regional connector in conjunction with this convention center issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments. This item relates to the management and operations of the LA Convention Center. Mr. Santana, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Miguel Santana, CAO. What you have before you is an effort that's taken about over 2 years to achieve. It's a comprehensive strategy to strengthen the convention center as an asset. There are several elements, including strengthening the role of the Oversight Committee. Currently, it's an advisory board. What you have before you is an ordinance with recommended amendments that would give it direct oversight over the convention center, working in concert with the general manager to establish goals and to implement those goals to increase the number of visitors coming to Los Angeles, not just through the convention center, but an overall tourism strategy. You also have before you a number of changes to various codes to facilitate the privatization of the operations of the convention center. My staff, the CLA, the City Attorney's Office, and the Convention Center staff have been in negotiations after the direction that was given back in June with AEG for the operations of the Convention Center itself. What before you is a 5-year contract with unfettered ability to terminate by year 3. There's a structure and compensation with $175,000 of base pay and an additional $350,000 that would be divided up, rather an additional $175,000 that would be divided up half through AG meeting certain revenue expectations and the other half meeting certain goals that are determined at the beginning of the year through the department. There's a commitment for $300,000 for a business and marketing development fund and an additional about $2 million loan to allow for transition costs and capital costs as they come as they surface. AGs also will be required to have a corporate guarantee through a performance bond. This agreement will become effective should your council approve it this month, and it is our goal to have AG have full authority over the convention center by the end of the calendar year. If we proceed forward, we would be working with the department to identify placement of the staff that are currently at the convention center. There's about 89 full-time staff and 35 half-time staff who are there.
I'm sorry, 89 full-time and how many part-time?
35 half-time. about half of the full-time staff have already identified and have been given positions throughout the city, many in various city departments. Yesterday I reported that there were 5 who accepted transferred or to work for AAG. Today that number is now increased to 8. So as we indicated yesterday, more and more city employees who have been given offers to work for AAG are starting to take those offers now that it's looking closer that, in fact, this is going to move forward. And so, again, this is part of an overall strategy, not just in relation to the privatization and the strengthening of the Oversight Committee, but also what has already been implemented, which is to provide greater flexibility around the booking policy so that the convention center can attract more citywide conventions, which will in turn increase our revenue through sales tax, hotel tax, and other taxes. With that, I'll turn it over to Bud to see if you'd like to add any additional.
Bud Overham, Executive Director of your Convention Center. Let me just step back a little bit because I'm new to this. I know some of you are new to this. This idea of privatizing and changing the governance structure wasn't my idea. I was just brought in to help implement it and get it across the finish line. But I happen to think it's a very good idea, and I wish it had been my idea. I think because of our weather, because of the attractions that we have in LA, we've always been able to take tourism for granted. It's just something that comes to us. But we live in an increasingly competitive world where we have to fight for everything we get. And I think the steps that the CAO has laid out before you to help us get there from a management point of view make infinite sense. We need to improve the governance structure we have. In the past, the LA Tourism reported to the CAO, the Convention Center reported to the mayor. Now we're going to have a governance structure where LA Tourism and LACC will work more closely together under this new executive director, under the new board. And this new governing agency will have a broader responsibility for promoting all tourism citywide. We need to privatize. Like I said, we live in a very competitive world. All of our surrounding competitors, San Diego, Long Beach, San Francisco, all have one form or another of a privatized operation. If we're going to compete with them toe-to-toe, we have to compete with the same even playing field that they have. We need to expand and modernize the convention center, hopefully with a football stadium, and we need to build significantly more hotels around the convention center within walking distance. So I think this ordinance that you have in front of you, I think the contract that you have in front of you are both major steps in the right direction for making the convention center the economic engine that it can be for this city.
Thank you. Mr. CAO, the recommendation is that the staff of 13 be assigned to the new convention center department to manage these 2 contracts. Could you kind of explain the need for 13 to do that?
Sure. So the convention center, it's important to point out that we are not selling the convention center. The convention center continues to be a city asset. We ultimately are responsible for the activities of the convention center and the facility itself. What we're doing is we're participating in a contract with AAG for the operations of the convention center, and as Bud indicated, there's still going to have to be a strategic planning that's done by the convention center staff to work in concert with the Oversight Committee to establish broader citywide goals around tourism and to reconcile this tension between ongoing or rather citywide conventions and trade shows. That tension comes from the fact that trade shows bring people from around the region, from Long Beach or Pomona or from the San Fernando Valley to downtown. We're lucky they buy a cup of coffee and then they go back home. Those are important because they help keep the lights on. You know, they pay for the rental space. Citywide conventions are bring people from around the country that stay at our hotels and have a ripple effect to our economy. And so finding the right balance of both of those is important, and that responsibility will ultimately fall in the hands of the convention center staff. So we are recommending that there still be a core staff whose responsibility will include strategic planning, making day-to-day decisions on booking the space itself, establishing goals. They will still be responsible for submitting an annual budget. It would go through the regular budget process. They would be responsible for submitting financial status reports that would indicate how they're doing on revenue, how they're doing on expenditures, work with our office to make any adjustments along the way in case they are not hitting those targets, and ultimately monitoring and holding the two vendors accountable, both AAG as well as the Bureau. And so a core staff is still needed for that purpose. And so if you look at the convention centers around the country, even those that are engaged in private management, they still have a core set of staff members to provide those day-to-day responsibilities.
And the report notes that there are startup costs of about $500,000. What does that expenditure include?
Well, there's no adjustments being made to the budget. It is our expectation, and we've shared this with both the department as well as with AAG, that they will manage the convention center at the current budget, and there is a mechanism should there be any startup costs that we haven't identified yet, but this is as we move forward to cover those costs should that be necessary. But it's our expectation that that will not be the case. If ultimately it's not required, then we're hoping to utilize some of those dollars to make improvements to the facility itself.
But you're projecting no more than $500 million in terms. $500,000 in terms.
No, we're not. We're hoping that we're not going to have any transition costs at all, and but we want to create a cushion. The way we've managed this in the future, the thing that's a little awkward is that we're doing this in the middle of the fiscal year. What will happen in the future is that there will be, as part of the base budget, a mandatory reserve of 10% of the overall revenue expectation that's established in the budget. If that was the case today, it would be closer to $2.5 million. And that reserve would be in place. And at yesterday's Budget and Finance Committee, we had a discussion about making sure that the council is aware and authorizes any time that they dip into that reserve to address any shortfalls that may surface throughout the year. And like any other department, we will know early on whether we're seeing revenues not meeting their objectives or expenditures increasing. We'll work with the department, and they in turn will work with the AG to ensure that there are efforts to mitigate any shortfalls. And so the reserve is there as a final backup should that be necessary as a way of protecting the rest of the city general fund.
Okay. Members, any questions? Any other questions?
Question. So take me through the process. So where are we in terms of the MOU transition process? Where are we in, is it a 90-day process, correct?
So,
where are we in that transition?
So if in June, prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, the council directed us to begin the process of negotiating with AAG the final term of the contract. So we went through an RFP process. AAG was selected, and so we needed to sit down and actually put in practice the actual framework. So we've been spending the last several months doing that. Should your council approve that, then the contract becomes effective within a few weeks after that authority is given, and then over the next 3 months there'll be a transition that occurs. So the delicate dance that we have to do is that that as this transition is occurring, we have events going on. So, for example, we have probably the largest event that the convention has, which is the auto show around Thanksgiving. So we want to make sure it's done in a way that's seamless, that the clients don't experience any hardships as a result. And so elements of the operations of the convention center will be slowly taken over by AG. So by January 1st, the transition should be completed. And so, and what will remain are 13 staff members that are city employees, and then their job is to continue to provide the oversight of the contract with the AG, as well as the Bureau.
Would that be your role
Yes, ma'am.
after January 1st?
All depends on the mayor's decision, but yes, ma'am, that's my role right now.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions?
The 13 staff are envisioned as permanent and ongoing.
That's right.
And if I could elaborate on that just a little bit, I think Mr. Santana stated it properly, but I just want to reinforce it, that, we have the ongoing staff will have two major roles. You, the city, still own the building. We are the landlord of the building. They are our contract operator. We need to, if there's somebody falls down the escalator, if there's a mugging in the parking lot, we're still going to be named in that lawsuit. So we need to make sure as landlords they're running the building properly. We're also the contract manager for two relatively substantial contracts. Someday you're going to come knocking on my door, the city auditor is going to come knocking on my door, the LA Times is going to come knocking on my door, and they're going to want to make sure that $26 million that we paid to AEG or the $12 million we paid to LA Tourism, that money has been spent properly, and we're the ones that are going to have to give the report, make sure that we've audited that, monitored that, and managed those two contracts.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We heard this issue at length yesterday in Budget and Finance, and Mr. Overman, this is twice now that you've tried to assume liability on behalf of the city. Let's just make clear, we own the building, yes, but AEG is defending and indemnifying the city for any liability that arises out of its negligence and so forth.
Under advice of my attorney, I retract everything I said.
Thank you. But a couple of points that we've discussed here also came up yesterday. First, with regard to the transition, it had been, well, first of all, it's the city's commitment that all of the current employees of the convention center will remain employed, will not be laid off. That commitment remains. And although I think some of us were surprised that there weren't a higher number of those employees already being hired by AEG, they are in the process of being placed. And the discussion that we had yesterday, and what I would like to reiterate today, if I could, Mr. Chair, and have it added to the recommendations of the CAO, is that I would suggest that we instruct the CAO as well as the convention center to report in quarterly FSRs regarding the implementation of the management agreement, any impacts it has on the city budget as well. In addition to that, Mr. Santana mentioned the reserve fund. In the event that it's necessary for the convention center to utilize that reserve fund, I would ask that the CAO notify the council of any such use so that we're aware if there are unexpected expenses, if there are contingencies. It's important that the council be aware of that in case it's indicative of some larger systemic problem or budgetary problem. And then finally, Mr. Kretz requested yesterday, and I concur with this, that because of the city's commitment to our employees, it would be important to have a report to the PAW committee with details about that transition process, not to refer this report or this council file to PAW, but rather to instruct today that a separate report be made to PAW regarding the transitioning of all convention center employees to positions either with AEG or with other city departments, so that the council has the ability to continue to make sure that that's moving forward smoothly and that our employees are assured of a place of continued employment.
No, I would suggest that report should come to this committee as well. I think we have an interest also in seeing how employees are being transferred or moved around or whatever. But thank you. Thank you, Paul. Any other comments, members? One last question I have. The report notes that there's the draft memo refers to a earned incentive fee and a discretionary incentive fee. Could you kind of describe the difference of those two and what it does?
So the way their compensation is structured is that It's a total of $350,000 a year. Half of it comes from based on them performing the work. The other half is divided into two. A portion of it is based on their ability to hit revenue targets. And so annually, as part of the budget process, the convention center staff with the committee and ultimately the council will establish goals for revenue. And there will be some of their ability to meet those goals will trigger whether or not they're eligible for that is earned. If at any point they fail to meet those, their expenditures exceed their revenues, then they will be ineligible to receive that. The second piece comes from not quantifiable goals, but more qualitative goals that are established based on citywide objectives. So, for example, yesterday we talked about the need to ensure that we are responsive to the needs of the filming industry, and there may be a goal established by the Oversight Committee and the Commission and the Mayor and your Council to really go after that business. And so there may be a specific target established around that. Every year will change based on the priorities of the city, and so that will be determined by the Oversight Committee and the General Manager and recommended to your Council. So that's how that element will work.
Any other questions? Okay, members, without objection, let's instruct the CAO, the LACC, and the personnel to report back in 45 days with an update on the placement of the remaining city employees, as we discussed earlier, and that we approve the CAO report as amended. Without any objections, that will be the order. Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony. Any further items on the agenda?
No, sir.
No further items, members. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.